We had the spring press conference of the week, if you will. A star-studded lineup in Boulder on the Thursday afternoon. Had Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. You had Shedeur Sanders. You had Shilo Sanders talking to the media. Let's break down a few things that they had to say. I think all the big headlines, if you've been reading or if you have a Google search alert like I do for Deion Sanders to make sure you don't miss anything, him downplaying the transfers in the transfer portal, much like we have talked about earlier this week. He really kind of brought it home. He turned the tables on the media, Neely, and asked them, well, what are we really losing? Which is just a matter-of-fact statement.
It really is just a matter-of-fact statement. And here's what I continue to not understand, which is, well, you know what, Tyler, let me stop playing. I do understand it. You got a black coach at a Power 5 school that is unapologetically black, unapologetically brash, has done everything at a high level his entire playing career, broadcasting career, coaching career, business career, you name it. And some people just don't like it. And so they try to question and throw stones and rocks at everything that comes out of his mouth. So I do get it. I do understand it. I just don't agree with it. Having said all of that, Tolly Carr, here's the deal. You have all these broadcasters, journalists, networks across the nation. I'm not talking about just here in Boulder, Colorado. And they put out these lists of the biggest impact players to hit the portal. Here are the best guys who are in the portal. This is the list of people you want to go after in the portal. And ain't a single person from Colorado on it. The people who have transferred from here, just like Coach Primus said, as much as he wishes them the best and is pulling for them to be successful and have opportunities somewhere else, they did not have an impact here, whether that was because of injury, whether that's because of depth chart, could be a myriad of reasons. But at the end of the day, no reporter in the room could push back and challenge him when he said, okay, tell me, what have we lost?
And the one thing, someone in the back, Neely, sheepishly, I can barely say it. I'm definitely not going to try to spell it. Sheepishly said, running back. And Coach Prime's answer was like, they were like, well, they were potential starters at that position. And he was like, well, potential? Are we talking potential here? The one thing I like about Coach Prime, and I don't think I've ever been on this side of it, if he has a question about your question, he's going to question you.
Oh, absolutely. I think people forget, again, 14 years in professional sports, 14 years as a broadcaster. He's been on both sides of it. He understands, doing your homework. He understands what the media's end game is because he's been on that side, trying to get a coach or a player to react or respond, so you can get that answer out of him. And he is quick to flip it up on you and make you justify your question and stand, as the young folks say, stand on business, stand on what you're asking. And for people to say, well, you did lose a starter. Okay, let's say a guy started the game. What was his impact in that game? And is that impact replaceable? I think that's where people are getting lost in the weeds in the nuances of this portal. People are seeking opportunity when they leave somewhere. They're seeking opportunity, which means their opportunity expectations were not met where they were, which means they probably don't have great numbers where they are. So when you look at the math and you math this thing out, what did you actually lose performance-wise? What did you lose that you can't be replaced? We had one guy that played 140 snaps on defense and had 6 tackles. I think you can replace that, Tom.
6 more than me, but I think that it is replaceable for sure. Well, one thing about Coach Prime, Neely, we all know that he does keep it 100, and he really talked about how, hey, look, I believe in my recruiting staff. He obviously believes in himself, but when it comes to recruiting, he knows that the secret sauce is within the players themselves. And Shedeur and Shilo came on and they really reinforced that, talking about how they talk to players and how they can be upfront and honest about, hey, this is what it's like over here. And if you come over here, this is how you could fit in. And Shedeur went as far as to say, Neely, he pulled guys' game film. He's breaking down exactly how players can fit in if they want to come over through the transfer portal.
Which side you want to take it from first, Tolly? No Diddy. You want to take it from the Shedeur Shilo side, or you want to take it from the player trying to land somewhere side? Because I can explain it to you from both ends of that spectrum. Look here, bro. I don't care if you're in the restaurant industry. If you work in the kitchen in restaurants and you're looking to relocate, move to another restaurant, and you apply for a restaurant, you're not just going to talk to the GM of that restaurant or the owner. You're going to talk to the folks that work in the kitchen. Hey, bro, what is it like to work there? What's the real deal? Do they do this? Do they do that? It's the same thing if you were in the restaurant industry and you were looking for somebody to join your team. You're going to talk to them because you want the best people on your team. Do you not think Shedeur Sanders wants to win? Do you not think Shilo Sanders wants to win? So why would they not try to help identify who can help them from a player perspective and articulate to them, hey, this is how the system runs. We're going to throw the ball a lot. We're going to do this on defense. I watched your film. This is how you can fit in. Man, it'll be great here. And here's what Coach Prime knows. They do it in the big leagues too. You better believe before he went to the Yankees or the Cincinnati or before he went to the 49ers or the Cowboys, he talked to somebody and somebody talked to him and they gave him the real deal spiel, not the GM, player personnel, or ownership spiel. They say, hey, look, man, this is why to work with you here. Players recruit players.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've seen that specifically in the NBA, how the players are just taken over and become the GMs. And one reporter asked, Shedeur and Shilo, or at least the conversation evolved into, like how many, players have you talked to? And Shedeur was like, man, I got to go back and check. I think Shilo might have said something like 50 maybe, but it's like a thing. And Shedeur's like, look, this is my life. I've been used to this. It's what I do. And one of the things I took away from that interview on Thursday, which you can see on the Pregame Show Network, you can go to our YouTube channel. It's also available at thepregameshow.com. We got a couple of articles written up. They have the videos embedded within the post, so make sure you go to the website, pregameshow.com. Even more impressed the more he speaks, the leadership of Shedeur Sanders. And it's not like, hey, I'm trying to be a leader. I'm working on being a leader. As soon as he opened his mouth, like outside of his daddy, like he's running things over there.
Absolutely. I walked outside the press conference with him, and as we were going to the elevator, I complimented him and said, "Man, great job in there today." I said, I'm not surprised, but because you've been doing it, but just want to say to you, great job. And we started talking about different people who have to perform. And I told him, I said, Grown, you got to understand, there's a lot of people that can rap. That doesn't mean they're great performers. You can rap like you got the words and you can perform too. Like both things meet on stage. So that's why you got people who are ghost writers, you got people ghost writers, and you got people who are excellent entertainers. This guy is the perfect storm of all of that. He stands on what he believes, and he knows how to articulate it and explain it to the audience what he's trying to get a point across. He doesn't let the media trap him into answers as far as trying to discredit a coach or a fellow teammate. You saw that all last year where he never threw the offensive line under the bus, and there was not a person in the world who would not have been mad at him had he thrown his offensive line on the bus. The guy had great command, of the quote-unquote podium when being asked questions, and it's the same command he has in the huddle, the locker room, the film room, the cafeteria, you name it. He is who he is, man. As his dad would say, he's a Sanders. But he is definitely a QB1 and is poised for leadership on this team and leadership on Sundays.
I won't say I can't wait because I am not rushing Father Time at all. It will be interesting to see when this year's NFL draft is over and they start talking about Shedeur Sanders ad nauseum, Neely, getting ready for the 2025 NFL draft, which will be a year-long conversation the moment this year's draft is over. And I really hope that the talking points, the narrative, the copy, not only talks about his athletic ability, but about his leadership. I hope it's not just, hey, that's, Deion's son, he comes from, good stock, yada, yada, which he does. But I mean, you put him in a vacuum, man. This kid's leadership, I mean, he's the all-American story. He is like what you expect to see in a quarterback. The packaging might be a little different, right? This is a guy stays in the pocket, He's not looking to run. You can't label him as, oh man, he's just this athlete that plays quarterback. Like, no, he is a quarterback. You have that leadership. I mean, he's out there dating, movie stars in college, name brand ladies. His dating game is on point. He's tops in NIL. Neely, this is everything not to make a comparison or take away, like everything you expect the Manning kids to be at quarterback, and God bless them if they continue to do that on down the line, but he is that, if not more.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the side of definitely he is more. One of the reporters asked Coach Prime, just as you set that up, that with the draft coming up, we're going to assume after that we talk about next year's draft. Who do you compare Shedeur to? And Coach Bristol said, "Man, I don't compare my kids to anybody. Like, we don't do that. Like that's nonsense. He is who he is, and there is no comparison to him. So I'm not going to play that NFL game that all the people do, or the talking head shows about he reminds me of this or that. He reminds me of himself. He's his own man. He's a true leader, on and off the field. He's got all his stuff together. And I think, Tolly, you're exactly right. We have a responsibility to make sure that narrative is shared. And it starts with us. If other people are not going to talk about, all that he brings to the table outside of just being in the huddle and going to the line of scrimmage, we're going to talk about it here. Same thing with the Travis Hunter. It doesn't get the splash and the buzz and the retweets like it should. But Travis Hunter just got an award, one of 3 people on the team with a 4.0 grade point average. But you don't see that leading headlines anywhere. The guys do what they do in the classroom. They do what they do in the community and on the football field. They are true leaders, generational talents. Probably right there, once in lifetime talents when you put it all together. So I think they exceed what the Mannings or anybody else has been supposed to do or you expect them to do. These guys are who they are. One of the things I love about the Sanders kids and the way Coach Prime raised them and brought them up is, you got this quote unquote silver spoon, but they've never rested on their dad's accomplishments. They go out and do their own things and work at it and do it higher than that. So they're not looked at as just Deion's son or Deion's daughter. They work their butts off and they've earned what they have.
And, on top of that, they're businessmen, Neely. We don't live in the world of, the $100, handshake anymore, where you just go and perform and the money just magically shows up. Like, these guys are spokesmen for brands. They're doing commercials. They're producing, podcasts and content, and none of that is taking away from what they do on the field. This is, we're just so used to it because it just kind of evolved and grew up around us, and we were just right in the middle of it, observing it and reporting on it. But man, this is a new age of athlete that, you have to give them their credit for what they're able to do, accomplish, and perform still out on the field every Saturday, which will translate into Sundays.
Amen. 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 I think one thing that Coach Prime has poured into his staff, his players, even media friends of the family like myself. Hey man, keep the main thing the main thing. If you're hot, it's because of the main thing. So if you're wanted in commercials, it's because you're great at football. So never let the commercials diminish what you're doing on the football field, because it's the football field that got you the commercials. So he's always reverse engineering things like that with his players and letting them know you got to keep the main thing if you want all these other things to continue as well. And so they get it. They get branding. They get the importance of staying on message. They get the importance of, what is your image off the field, so that companies want to associate themselves with you. So they've been around that business world, all of their lives. They've been around those cameras all their lives. They understand it and get it, Tolly. And whoever gets them, on a Sunday for next year is getting somebody that's bringing everything to the table and is ready to go.
And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, Neely, I feel like that lends to some of the stability, especially with the transfer portal. Like what Colorado's lost, I checked this morning, I think it's like 15 kids or something like that. But you don't get that sense. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't get that sense that, there are players who are weighing the bag over here or weighing the bag over there and kind of playing that game, like we do see with some other programs where kids are jumping and it's like, oh, more money over here, more money over there. And I feel like, and I'm 2,000 more miles away than you are. That experience from Coach Prime to be able to guide these guys through that process. I don't know where else I'd want to be. Like, I know this guy knows football because of what he's done and his acumen as a business person. If I'm making NIL dollars, or I'm in the mix, for this money or whatever, I'd love to be able to just go knock on that guy's door and be like, Coach, what do you think about this?
And they absolutely knock on the door and do that. And he absolutely receives every player that comes in, and he tells everybody in the program, whether you're trying to be recruited in or you're actually here, don't worry about the NIL, focus on the NFL. Because if you're chasing the NFL, the NIL will come even if you don't make it to the NFL. So if you keep the priority, again, the main thing, those other things are going to fall in place. But as you said, Tolly, you do have folks around the country who weigh where they're going based on the current collective or NIL deals. And let me say this, I ain't mad at you. When you're looking at about 90% of the people in college sports, do not go on to play professional sports. Sometimes the college bag, is really all that you have an opportunity to get as far as making money off your name, image, and likeness from this particular sport. So I do understand those who have to prioritize the right now. I got to take this opportunity right now to make a little more money going to this school or staying in school instead of going, to the WNBA if you're on the women's side of it. So I get it. But at Colorado, the messaging is the reverse. Like, man, don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about this little bag right now, because you can follow this blueprint and there's a bigger bag. And in fact, what he tells his team during the team meetings, he said, y'all do understand these folks who own these football teams, own these professional sports, most of them didn't play. Like, they got their money from other means. So I want y'all to focus on becoming professionals, because some of y'all, instead of going to the league, could be league owners one day. So let's understand business and how to navigate the business world and become professionals, because all the money is not just tied up on the athletic side. And if a guy can write somebody a $10 million check, how big is the check he's writing himself?
A lot bigger. A lot bigger. Million. It's a lot of money, Neely. A lot of money.
Must be nice.
Look, I just want to be like the guy that Drake dissed the other day when he told he told Rick Ross he lived in a content creator's career.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, as
I'll
a
take
content
that.
creator,
I'll take that.
Oh, look how close your neighbors are to you. Okay.
All right, no,
it's
not a
it's a
problem.
mansion next to a mansion. I'll take it.
I'll take it. I might not have acres and acres of buffer between me and my neighbor, but I'll take the content creator's crib. All right, Neely, content this weekend, man. It's going to be a lot happening. We got another scrimmage this
Yep.
Saturday, right?
Got another scrimmage, the last one before the real scrimmage, which is the spring game. So that will be what, practice 12 will be the scrimmage this Saturday. So, again, looking for some full contact out there, looking for the script to open up a little bit more, but I also want to see a cleaner game than we had at the first scrimmage. We had officials out there, and then, we're tracking the number of penalties and the penalties by group and players. So I want to be able to sit down with you, Tolly, on Sunday or Monday and say, here's the penalties from scrimmage 1, here's the penalties from scrimmage 2, and hopefully it got better.
All right, we got to do it Sunday. If we're going to get that content creator's crib, Neely, we got to be on top of it. So we gotta get together and make that happen on Sunday. And my wife's out of town, so my honeydew list is not happening this weekend. I can be all about my main gig right here.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen, Captain.
Neely, can I just shout out our internet trolls? We had some content up the other day. And you guys know me and Neely go back, and we started my work with HBCU game day, which I still do. There's 24 hours in the day. You can make content
Absolutely.
on a whole lot of things. Somebody in the comments said HBCU game day was in the transfer portal. I just thought, I don't know why that made me laugh so hard, but
yeah, I
that was
saw
funny.
that and thought it was hilarious, because here again we try to pigeonhole each other as if a person can only do one thing. You know, when I was Jackson State, I'm a Jack State grad, proud HBCU alum, as you are a proud HBCU alum, and we met during the Jackson State days in the HBCU Game Day platform, which the HBCU Game Day platform is still alive, well, kicking and growing. But Tolly Carr, the individual, you know, there's 24 hours in a day. He can go to the grocery store and go get his tires checked too. You know, you don't just have to do one thing all day long. And so when people see you doing something else, here comes the problem. Like when you out, everybody wishes you well, Tolly, when you're doing what they define as success for you.
All right.
I'm happy you got that new car, Tolly, but when you get two cars, like, I'll say, look at me doing too much. Like you can't, Tolly. You cannot exceed their level of what they want for you, because that's when the hate comes.
Oh man, but you just have to understand. I pick on myself more than anyone, so
You do.
I'm Mr. Self-deprecation. So when the trolling comments come in, I love it, man. It's look, you could what how does the saying go? You can be mean as long as you're funny. Like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Hey, let me
well
tell you this, man.
yeah.
And I'm gonna give a shout out to him by name. Shout out to IP Freely in the YouTube comments. I don't know if IP Freely is a man, woman, child, whatever, but IP Freely has been hating for over a year now. Let me tell you, let me give you a shout out, because the energy it takes to watch a video and comment on the video 5 or 10 times with nothing but hate, you, sir or ma'am, are a legend in the hate game. Hats off to you. You are number one fan.
Hey. We need a cameo from Ice-T from the Chappelle Show. Hater of the year. Oh, I love it. I love it, man. I look, as long as you're watching and commenting, that's a nickel every time. I
Yeah,
am here
man,
for
keep it up. We appreciate that.
it. Neely, Tyler Brown, that
Yeah,
name keeps coming up, and it's all good every time I hear.
it is all good, man. At the end of practice, Coach Prime called up the offensive line coach and said, "Man, give me a name. Who's bringing it? Who's not letting up? Who's doing the darn thing out there?" And without hesitation, Coach Phil Lodeho said, "Man, Tyler Brown." And so Tyler Brown got to come out, speak to the team, break it down. In the press conference on Thursday, his name came up. Tyler Brown was getting lots of praise from Deion Sanders. As we all know, Tyler transferred from Jackson State. NCAA did not grant him a waiver last year. He didn't have to play, had to go through that frustrating season, kept his workouts going, worked on his mental health, you know, because here you are transferring for this opportunity and it gets snatched away from you. I'm looking for Tyler to be a big impact on this revamped offensive line. And shout out to Tyler, because in a couple of weeks, week after the spring game, he will be graduating from Colorado. So this fall, he'll be playing as a grad student.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations to Rock. The Rock. Love to see that. One of the things, and not The Rock as in Dwayne Johnson, but Rock from early 90s.
Yeah, that was early 90s. What's his name? Charles
Charles Dutton. Is it
Dutton?
Dutton? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was
he was the
the
groundskeeper
no, he was the
on
garbage man.
Rudy. No, he was the garbage man on Rock.
Right.
But back in the day, the movie Rudy from Notre Dame, he was the groundskeeper.
Oh. And he has that famous meme too, where the slow clap meme, where it's
Yeah, which is a great scene from Rudy in the tunnel.
yeah.
Hey, speaking of Rudy and Rudy-like things,
Yeah.
Charles Offerdahl, running back here, Charlie O, walk-on, was on the team before Coach Prime, made it through the Coach Prime transition, still a walk-on running back, Mr. Consistency. All he does is bring it and make the most of his reps. That same practice day, Coach Prime called him up again in practice, called up Coach Flea as well, said, "Hey, move Charlie O to the twos until I say differently." He has moved up the rankings, man, and you know, we could have a Rudy moment this year.
Charlie, the fan favorite. I have not watched all of the B-roll because I'm not there on the ground like you are. Does Charlie still have that award-winning mustache?
It does. Now the levels of the mustache come and go. Sometimes he trims it back. Sometimes it's 70 porn star. Sometimes it's 1980s Tom Selleck Magnum PI. You know, sometimes it's Yellowstone, the prequel, 18, whatever. The levels of the mustache change, but Charlie still has the mustache.
Man, he's got to keep that. I like that Magnum PI look that he has going. That's one of my favorite shows. He's got to keep the Tom Selleck right there on the top left. I used to have one, Neely. I had the world's. They say don't ever trust a black man without facial hair. I do have a little stubble here, but man, I had the world's worst mustache. Man, it just looked like a caterpillar was on my top lip.
I would love to see it. That's a funny quote, man. My dad used to tell me that never trust a black man without facial hair, never trust a white man with it, is what my dad told me. But I trust Charlie O.
In Charlie, we
a white
trust.
man with facial hair, and I trust him.
In Charlie, we trust. Yeah, it's not coming back, man. It was I wrote it hard, man, but it
Pause.
about about mid-20s. I had to let it go. All right. I'm looking forward to it. The scrimmage, that is. We're going to talk about it. We'll have a post-scrimmage reaction coming up for you this weekend. I know you talked about the penalties. Outside of that and just, having a clean game, are there any position groups that you're like especially going to be looking to just, take an extra look at how they look out on the field Saturday?
Yeah, I sure am. A couple of phases of it. Offensive line, defensive line, particularly if there's opportunity for ones on ones, but even under the current format of twos against ones, want to really sit there at the line of scrimmage and see how much our defensive line plays ball on the other side of the line of scrimmage, getting some penetration in the backfield. We didn't do that well last year from a defensive line standpoint, gave up big runs at crucial moments. So with this being a contact scrimmage and, the guys really get to go after it, how's our D-line's penetration into the backfield going to be? And then conversely, can the run game, get going past an aggressive D-line? So going to be looking for that. Also looking, at these receiver battles. Shedeur spoke very highly of Wester, who's come in here. And, of course, you got a Mario Miller who had that big breakout game last year. So as the ones are out there in particular, looking to see which receivers, can emerge. And then also, as always, Tolly, is Travis Hunter's show, just tracking how many plays and reps he gets on offensive defense and what he does and how the game, changes when he's out there.
Coach Prime did not give names, but he said, "Look, I got some D line, I got some depth. Think I got a tight end, got some run." Like he went through what's coming in a very, very 25, 30,000 foot cruising altitude level. What would be your guess on a time frame of when we might start hearing some names dropping in from the portal?
I would say the next 10 days. The portal, when it opens up, the first thing people are do is entering the portal, which means they're exiting where they are. And then they start going on their visits and having official conversations and then start making their decisions. So we got a big recruit visit coming up this weekend. Of course, there'll be some that final weekend for the spring game. The portal closes on April 30th, as in your ability to get in it, but you don't have to have been retrieved from it by April 30th. So I think between this weekend and our spring game, and maybe to that first week of May, you're going to hear a bunch of names who are saying, yes, it's Colorado for me. And then they will arrive here Memorial Day weekend into that first week of June to go into their strength and conditioning offseason phase. So, Tolly, the door always opens with people leaving first. This is the time frame where people are going to start coming in. I expect those names to start popping after this weekend.
All right. So make sure you follow us here on the Pregame Show Network, thepregameshow.com. We'll keep you up to date on all of the latest comings. We've seen the goings, the comings that are on the way to Colorado. I want to say this, Tyler. Yeah.
I need one more person to transfer.
One more?
Yeah. I bet between me and my buddies, I bet the over on 15 people leaving. So right now we're at 15, and I need one more.
Well, if Chef transfers out, I know you will have a heart attack.
Yeah, Neely probably going with him. Love you, Brian. But hey, Carl Solomon, shout out to Chef Solomon. Yeah. Do you remember? That reminds me, we're going to date ourselves. Richard Pryor had albums. You could put them on a record player. Yeah. And he was going through one of those divorces. and the dog spoke to Richard and said he was going with her because you be tardy with that food. I got
Wherever Chef goes, Neely shall follow. Oh man. Oh man. It is a bromance made in your stomach. I see
yes,
it.
sir.
I see it. All right. This episode, I don't think we had any misspelled words. So I won't have to go to the bulletin board next time. We'll just try to keep it in the verbal and not spelling anything out phonetically or otherwise. All right. He's in Boulder, Colorado. I'm Tolly Carr in the ATL. We'll see you next time right here on the Pregame Show Network. Neely, I had to go to the board, man.
No glare on it. I really can't see it, but was that hallucination?
They said I misspelled it, so you know what that means.
You got to write it over and over 50 times.
100 times on the board. But we're going to call it a day at 3.
Yeah.